Let's talk about texture. Not the diameter of the hair, fine, medium, or coarse, but curls. As you probably already know by the title of this video, we're going to talk about a curly bob. And I want kind of a shorter, fuller curly bob for this hair. But there's a few very curl specific techniques that I want to go over during the course of this cut today. The first thing to keep in mind is when dealing with curly hair, you are dealing with a canvas that is constantly changing. When you are removing sections or removing the physical weight, so you're taking length off the hair, it doesn't weigh as much as it used to, the character of your canvas is going to change a little bit. You want to stay responsive to your canvas and make sure that you're always reading it and trying to figure out what's going on. And after we shampoo, that's when I'm really going to be able to tell the character of those curls. Two things super important about the technique and the methods that I prefer to use for cutting curly hair. Number one, I want to cut it wet. And number two, the way I get it wet is important. We're going to get the hair wet. We're going to keep it wet for these reasons. Number one, when the hair is dry, that curl is frozen in place. It's just, if those curls are stretched out, if they've loosened up, if they're tighter than normal, if I go ahead and style my guest hair, I may style it differently than they do at home. And so when they go home and they shampoo and they style this hair that I cut dry after I dried it, it is going to act different than the way that it did when it was in my chair. Take, for instance, this one. They're sisters. They actually have the exact same hair texture, but look how loose these curls are compared to these. These are a little easier to see because they've been highlighted. But she was styled with comb twists. Curls are a little bit stretched out. She's been wearing them out for a few days, as opposed to these, which are a lot tighter. And if I just decided to air dry, the curls are going to look more like this than this. So I don't want to freeze my guest into having to style their hair one specific way. I want it to look good in every possible way. If it looks good like this, it'll definitely look good like this. But also, if I run my fingers through the hair and start breaking those curls up, if I try to take sections and elevate them or do any sort of cutting on them, can you see how much larger the hair is on this side already than it was on this one? They're frozen in place, and now I'm unfreezing them and letting them just rest in a new place. And I can't really actually see what these curls want to do. Cutting curly hair is like having a conversation with the hair. Think back to all the conversations that you've had with someone and when you've walked away feeling really good about that conversation. They're usually the conversations where you do most of the talking and somebody's been listening to you. We all feel good when we feel like we've been heard, when we've been listened to. So in order to have a conversation with these curls, you've got to be a good listener. I need to listen to them, ask them where they want to be, and make sure that I'm taking care of their needs. So when it comes to resetting the curl and reading it and knowing exactly what that curl wants to do and being able to predict where it's going to be a week from now, I've got to get to know that curl, which means we need to get that hair wet and really see the true character of what's going on here. Ask the curls what they like. If I were to just spray them down, there's a layer of environmental buildup, there's a layer of natural oils, there's a layer of product. All of that is forming a moisture barrier, and the hair, that curl will not reset properly. You'll get the hair wet, but it won't be truly wet, and you won't really see the character of them. The only way to do that is with some sort of a surfactant, with shampoo. Even if you subscribe to no poo or co-washing, it is still super important to get in there and cleanse the hair, cleanse the scalp. Yes, less frequently than normal, but we still need to, especially for the health of your scalp, clean that scalp up and allow the water to fully penetrate into the hair so we can see what we're working with. Once we've done that, we're going to keep the hair wet the entire time until we style. So let's get started. So I'm going to part my guest's hair where they naturally part it. She's got a little bit of a side part. Unless she feels like she's going to be moving it around a whole lot or switching sides, then maybe I'd cut it in the center. But in this case, right here is totally fine. She wants maybe a chin length, kind of a full bob, something with a little bit more body. I really want to see, does she have the length on the side to support that chin length? And it does look like, in fact, she does. The other thing I'm going to do is I'm not going to use a white comb on a white background. Also not advisable to use a dark comb on dark colored hair. So now I'll use a red comb. I want to get that comb nice and level. Right where the back of the head starts to bend away from the comb. From there, straight down with the head level. That's what's going to separate my front from my back. You should see on the side of the hairline how this line here kind of goes up. This should almost be like a continuation of that. A good general rule for curly hair is how big of a subsection do I need to take? The hair tends to want to group together in curls about the size of half a curl, which is this C shape right here. So I can, with pretty good confidence, take a parting right about there, which is approximately the size of the C shape present right there. My goal is to get a bob that is level all the way around. I'm going to actually start in front. I know that I want those curls to end right at the chin. So same thing in the front. If I kind of blouse this hair forward, you can see where it's starting to split right there. I'm going to let that be my first subsection. So blouse it, let it bounce, and I'm literally only going to cut halfway to my destination. Comb it, blouse it. That was my destination. I got a little bit of bounce when I cut it, but not a ton. I'm going to go a little lower than that. I like what's happening. Notice how all the weight's at the bottom? I would like to redistribute some of this weight, maybe up through there. That's going to be our next step after we've established the length. Okay, now she has this totally bell-shaped mullet. We're going to take care of the bell shape in just a little bit. But now we need to make sure we even up the length in the back. One thing I didn't mention before was once you have figured out what your target length in the front is going to be, before you cut it in the back, make sure that you know what to expect. Because when I turn it to the side, the last thing I want, is if I'm not expecting it, is to be surprised by a low hairline. If I follow my guide all the way around, nice and level, for this particular cut, ideally, I'm going to be below the hairline. Some people have just naturally lower hairlines, or they were looking for an even shorter bob. And if you don't expect it, and you follow that line around and end up cutting into this hairline here, you're going to have some unexpected fixing to do. It's not an impossible obstacle, but if you weren't expecting it, it's going to be a very unpleasant surprise. So same thing on this side as on the last one. My target is here. I'm going to start Actually, much lower than I think I need to. Look how much that bounced up. If I had just gone and cut right there before, this would have bounced up way before I needed it to. So we're going to try again. Once again, a little longer than I think it needs to be. I'm going to comb every section out first, blouse it, really make sure that I follow those splits that I find. That's where the hair's just naturally telling you these are the groups of curls that want to be together. If that means that your line isn't totally perfect, that's 100% okay. I'm not cutting this haircut because I like perfect lines. I'm cutting this haircut because I like perfect curls. No tension. My big fat head in the way. Let's cut a little lower than my guide and let that hair spring up. You can see my guide is right there. I'm going to cut lower. Once again, always adapting to an ever-changing canvas. Really let those curls be free and do what they want. Because what used to be a straight line isn't a straight line anymore. There are different curls on different parts of the head. And so even as you progress throughout the haircut, you really want to make sure that you're treating every section as an individual section. Once again, much longer than I think it needs to be. Comb it out, really release those curls, use the wider teeth of your comb. Now, rarely has anyone ever come to me and said, please make me look as much like a mushroom as possible. So I really want to smooth this out and give it some character and make it not look like a mushroom. All right, so back into our 4 quadrants. And a little bit of blousing like this, I can see clearly that even though my comb tells me the back of the head is here, this hair here is going to fall back there. So I'm going to let it in. Now, this is where really listening to those curls can really come in handy. If I show you what I've got going on in the back here, it's roughly a pie-shaped section, just going to the apex of the head, getting a little bit wider, and this is the back center strip of the hair. If this was my guest, I'd stand beside them and check this view out in the mirror and look at all of this bulk that I have here. There's a lot of bulk there. I'm just going to grab the hair where it starts to go past the apex of the occipital bone. That is kind of, all my bulk is coming from up here. So that means that this is going to be my guide. I'm going to start right here. And in this case, I can use tension because I've already cut that shape in. I'm not using a ton of tension, but I am going to find out where the end of that hair, where this hair just falls out of my fingers, and I'm going to cut straight up. I've pulled this hair level with the floor, 90 degrees from where it lives. And now I just took care of that much hair. Now I need to take care of the rest of the round of the head, which means I'm going to let this hair be my guide. Once that starts to pop out of my finger, I can come up here and cut it. And then I'm going to elevate straight up. And do the same thing. Now look at the silhouette we've got. We still have plenty of bulk on top, but it's less mushroomy and it's softer. If I decide that it's still not soft enough, I'm going to go 90 degrees from that section I just picked. There we go. Now we're distributing that curl throughout the head, and we've got a little bit of a softer, rounder silhouette. So I'm going to do this all the way around. This is something I've talked about in my previous hair cutting videos, taking radial sections. Look at the difference between this side and this side. Now I'm going to go from the center around that way. Now when it comes time to taking these layers from the back around to the side, we do need to watch out that we don't cut a hole. This is a rookie mistake, is to cut a hole in this bob right here. If I were to follow my guide and just pull this hair straight out toward myself and cut this hair that length, there's a very good possibility that I'm going to leave a hole right here. Because in the back, you've got hair that goes from the top of the head all the way down to the nape. You've got hair growing from here. But as you follow it around, there's no hair growing from here. So the hair growing from here is equivalent to the hair growing from here. So anything I did from this point down is negated. So now my goal is to make sure that I still have a strong enough perimeter, leaving this out, and following some layers around. So now I've got a strong perimeter here. My layers really need to come from way up here. So what had I done here? That was way up. It wasn't down here, it was up here. So those are the layers I'm going to be following around. Rather than in the back, how I went 1, 2, 3. When it comes to the side, that first one, there's no hair coming from there, so I'm going to skip it. I'm just going to go 2, 3. Now remember how we were looking square and mushroomy before? which we're still going to look like on this side there. Don't be afraid to shake the curls. Let them get untangled from one another. But look how much softer and rounder that shape is. The way it is through here, it doesn't just look like a blunt cut. I did very little after cutting that perimeter. Let's match up on this side. There we go. What a difference that made. Just a couple little cuts. Hey guys, thanks for watching this video. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more, go ahead and check out some of my other videos. Feel free to share with any of your nerdy friends. Click the subscribe button. If you have any questions or comments, leave them below. Let me know what else you want to hear about. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you next time.